Okay, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining. My name is Nora Mattern. I'm a faculty member in the School of Computing and Information at Pitt and chair of the Year of Data and Society initiative. And it's really my pleasure to welcome you and welcome our speakers from the 412Connect project team. So throughout this academic year, we'll be highlighting innovative and people-centered data projects that involve members of the Pitt and Pittsburgh communities. And we're calling this series the Year of Data and Society Conversations. And I'd like to offer tremendous thanks to the 412Connect team for kicking off this series. Your work is really such an exciting example of a transdisciplinary project that bridges Pitt, CMU, and community organizations, and that uses data and technology for societal good. And I'm so grateful for you, for your time today, and for your openness to sharing this work. So just a few brief words on the Year of Data and Society at Pitt before I turn it over to the 412Connect team. So through the Office of the Provost's Year of Initiative, each year the university community focuses collective attention to a theme that unites us. And this academic year, we're focusing on data and society. So the Year of Data and Societies provides the University of Pittsburgh students, faculty, staff an opportunity to think critically about the data we collect, we use, we leave behind as traces through our scholarly work, education, institutional operations, and digital lives. So we'll be exploring together the societal implications of data and its uses, recognizing that data can both empower and marginalize individuals and communities. Our year-long conversation and supported activities will focus on what MIT professor Sarah Williams calls data action, or responsible and ethical data practices that benefit the public good. So I'll be dropping a link to the Year of Data and Society's website where you can learn more about upcoming events, as well as a funding opportunity that is available through the Year of initiative. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the 412Connect project team with, again, my sincere thanks for your time and for joining us.
Thank you so much, Nora, for having us. Maybe if we are in the 412Connect team, we can like turn on our video real quick and just sort of like say hi to just let people know who we are. So there is Tyler, Ivy, Adam, and there's Juan and Colin, and we'll be joined with Alex as well. There's okay, so thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to share a screen. Okay. So this is Project 412Connect, and our team is from CASI. It's an initiative called Grief to Action, and thank you for Year of Data and Society Conversations for having us. All right, so what we're going to try to tell today is a story of the human infrastructure that builds a digital infrastructure. It's a story about how all parts of the city, not just researchers and educators, but also administrators, community organizations, students, and businesses that already have expertise and unique perspective on how you can use data science for social good while minimizing potential harm. And this is a story about how all these previously unconnected parts came together and bring in their multidimensional expertise to co-design, build, and deploy a data platform. And in this case, it's to connect students and the local communities of color. Okay, so who we are. So we're a big team and we're a very open and fluid team. I'm the founder of CASI, so I'm the director, and Alex Jackson, who is not able to be here today, but I will go over her parts. We'll talk about problem scoping, and then we have a platform design team that is Mike Hamilton from Operations Research at CATS, and Alex Di Cristofano, who's data science PhD at WashU St. Louis. Institutional support for deployment, Ivy Chang, undergraduate in econ and finance. We'll talk about that. And then Colin Griffin, who is our tech lead and an undergraduate in computer science, will talk about how to manage tech volunteers and like this crowdsourced volunteering programming infrastructure. Tyler Olin is our UX designer, and he will be talking about the design process, and the content curation will be Riverside Center for Innovation. So both Adam and Juan are here today. Okay. So I'll just first give an overview of what is CASI. So CASI is a Center for Analytical Approach in Social Innovation. It's a very new center founded in 2019. And the purpose is to promote like a practice to research approach in economics and computing. So we did a lot of like kind of standard academic things, like we had market design classes, and then we, but more on the practice to research approach. And then we hosted the National Bureau of Economic Research Mechanism Design for Vulnerable Population Conference. Some of our projects before was like Pitt Smart Living. We worked with Pitt Smart Living on transit project, and we did some randomized control trials with social service organization, in this case, post-incarceration services. But CASI really changed after the murder of George Floyd, and we sent in an open call for anyone to come in and talk in June 2020. And so from word of mouth, we've had about 150 people join so far, just meeting. Some are very involved, some are involved for like a week, some are involved for a year. And people come up with community and student initiated ideas for data platform to support existing efforts against systemic racism. So almost everyone in the group are volunteers, except for about 8 people right now. Currently, we have about 30 people in 2 working groups. So the first one is the Allegheny County Policing Project, which was a request from community organization to deal with fragmented policing in Allegheny County. And so we built a searchable library of 100+ police contracts to help citizens. And if you check back on November 8th, Year of Data and Society Conversation, we will be launching the tool there. So check back in on November 3rd. The project that we're going to talk about today is 412Connect, Bridging Student and Communities. So this is going to be a local organization curated scavenger hunt of assets in minoritized communities. So in this case, we're going to talk about Black-owned businesses. The website has already launched. You can see it at 412connect.org. So just real quick, on the left side here of the screen, if you can see my mouse, are our community partners for 412Connect. And then on our other side is for ACPP. Some organizations work with us in both, like WPRDC and Data for Black Lives. Okay, so I'm gonna focus a lot on how do we work? And so as a contrast, I'm gonna talk about the standard academic model. So in the standard academic model, you start with research. And so you build a research specialization that is valued by an academic discipline. Then you teach a class on that specialization. And then when you are engaging in service, you would offer applications of your research specialization to the community, and you develop new research questions out of this engagement. The problem is that social issues may not fit neatly into the research specialization. So we want to offer a different framework of doing work that is grounded on service. So the Grief to Action model is to first start with the community. So we have weekly meetings every Friday at noon. You're all welcome to join us. It's open to all. And you just send email to ivy@cassie@pitt.edu. And then what happens in the community meeting is problem scoping, which is you define a problem, you collect information about it, and then you explore solutions. After that, we develop the specialized subgroups for prototype development. So you would design the data platform, you look at existing research and you incorporate it. And then once you decide to build it, you get institutional support for the platform, and then you work on implementation with technical students. Once you have a prototype, you quickly show the prototype to community members and get their feedback. If you need to, you do formal user studies and apply for IRBs, and then you present at seminar and conferences for feedback. And then just iterate through this process quickly. So a couple things about how we do this in Grief to Action. On our Friday meetings, the norm is is one of self-care. So we always start with 5 minutes of mindfulness. And then there's no hierarchy. So I'm an associate professor, but like any of the undergrads can tell you that they have told me my ideas are bad like a million times and be like, we are absolutely not doing this. We also have no jargon. And so the technical people and people from policy have to explain things to each other in a way that everyone can understand. And it takes us some training to do this. And so this is a learning process for all. In the prototype development, we have multiple sub-teams that are fairly independent. They have their own meetings. They have their own communities. So we have a community engagement group. We have a programming or a tech group. We have a design team. We have an algorithm, all the platform design team. And we have a team that writes this up as research. In terms of getting feedback, we have presented at the Pitt ISP Forum right now at the Year of Data Science, Harvard CRCS program, at the CMU AI for Social Good panel, at Tufts, WashU St. Louis, and at MD4SG. Alex is going to represent us there at the Equity Algorithm Access Conference. So this is kind of the general overview, and then each speaker will kind of take you through the circle and kind of explain, who they are, how they came to the group, and what is it that they do at that step of the circle. So with that, I'm going to go into this specific launch, the Black-owned business scavenger hunt that is curated by the Riverside Center for Innovation. So this is our first launch. This is our fall 2021 launch, and we're hoping to iterate through this process. So this is a fairly small launch. We have only 8 Black-owned businesses. We had 2 academic departments recruited, but what we hope is through what we learn here, we're going to launch again and then make it bigger and better every time. So we're interested in all feedback that you have. Okay, so the problem that we're trying to tackle here is that after 10 years of transformation in Pittsburgh, it become like a great city for some, but remains segregated. The university has put in significant effort, for example, through the Community Engagement Center, but historically, it's also segregated from the communities of color. So when we first start talking about this, we worked with Black-owned PGH and Cocopreneur, who gave us their data on where Black-owned businesses in Pittsburgh. And we had some students at Berkeley, some volunteers there that mapped them out. And from there, you can see that the location of the universities here are very far from the location of the Black-owned businesses. So students have little way of accessing them or getting to know them. These businesses also have less access to PPP loans, and even though they're being hit hard by the pandemic, this was something that Data for Black Lives studied. And so during the pandemic and the summer 2020, there was a lot of attempts to help Black-owned businesses. For example, Google had a search, and Yelp had a Black-owned business feature. However, some of these attempts to help can have unintended consequences. For example, there were people that were using this directory to give these businesses lower ratings. And there were people that were intending harm that were using these platforms. So there are definitely potential unintended consequences out of trying to create data platforms to tackle these problems. And students in general also wanted to support these their local communities, but are not sure how to do this. Okay, so let's go. So we went into define the problem, and then let's talk about collecting information. So in terms of information collection, this was done by Data for Black Lives Pittsburgh and Community Forge, Herman Johnson at Community Forge. But it's actually a really big team. These are just people who are involved with this launch. I mean, we've had about 50 people from last year. The catalyst was an administrator at GISPIA who brought up the idea of supporting Black-owned businesses. And then Herman Johnson and Miguel Najavier were our advisors in terms of the day-to-day on the Black-owned businesses. And Mara McLeod and Iona on students at GISPIA were the weekly meeting student leaders. So there's a lot of people behind this. So this is the survey that was ran by Community Forge and Data for Black Lives for 412Connect. they asked the business how important it is to reach new customer base. And the answer was very important. Oh, this was colored, but the answer was it was very important. And I think the color here is a little bit wonky. But the next question was, do you feel adequately connected to the college or university base in Pittsburgh? And the answer was that yes, and they're looking to improve this connection, or no, but they would really like to improve this connection. So growing their customer base was very important, and improving this connection was also their priority. They then asked, what type of technical support do the businesses need to promote their businesses? And a lot of it was about the web, right? It was advertising, with social media marketing, integration of their website with other systems, and increased press and presence. So from that, we surveyed the other side of the market, which is the students. And we asked, from a scale of 1 to 4, how much of a priority should we be supporting Black-owned businesses? And this is a very small sample, it's 24 responses, but there was a lot of interest in doing so, in supporting Black-owned businesses. But the barriers that they talked about was lack of information. So a lot of the students were not able to name these businesses, and they weren't aware of where these businesses are. Lack of money and lack of mobility was also things that they mentioned, but not as much as just lack of information. So we asked, if we built an online activity to guide you and your friends to support Black-owned businesses in Pittsburgh, will you participate? And many says yes. So then we asked, what would you do? What is it that you're willing to do in this activity? Buying was something that they weren't ready to do yet, but in terms of online activities, we had more interest. So the first one was people were willing to follow a business on social media, and they were willing to help promote the businesses by liking or retweeting their post. Taking photos and things that are more involved were less popular, but definitely we saw a willingness to follow businesses on social media, which could create relationships. So connecting these two surveys together, we find that the Black-owned businesses would like support in terms of social media and press and presence, and the students would like to follow the businesses on social media. So we started thinking about, how do you build a platform based on these two results? Okay, so what should the platform do? So as you saw earlier, the businesses wanted people to build relationship with them and promote them on social media, and the students were willing to follow. So kind of like the end product is to have students follow Black-owned businesses' social media and get to know them. But how do you get students interested enough to follow these businesses? So next thing, so what we thought about, and this was from the Metropolitan University, a presentation that we had there, someone suggested a scavenger hunt. And one of the things that we could do is have the businesses write their own questions as trivia questions on things that are very interesting to them, right? So for example, maybe Launch Party, this fictional company, has a special recipe for a chicken skewer that is like so many ingredients and very, very delicious. So this could be a question, and to find the answer, you have to go to their website and look around, right? So students that have gone through their website, answered this trivia question, would be curious enough to then maybe hopefully follow the social media. We then guide them through a series of activities, and then give them points for having completed this activity. And hopefully then once we're done with this, we need to be able to give the businesses some statistics about how their participation has been for them. So what should the platform do in terms of institutional? The platform should be connecting students and communities. And there is academic departments and community organizations are the one that could connect the students and the community members. In the middle is the platform with the curator that connects people to the community or the community assets. And the community assets can present itself as a display in a Rolodex. And so this then became kind of the framework of 412Connect. So from here to build in, I'm going to go to other members of the team. First, I'm going to go to Alex, and here Alex will incorporate some of the research and algorithms to answer the questions of how should we be displaying these businesses? And how should we reward student engagement? Okay. So with that, we go from exploring solutions to bringing in research in the platform development. All right, Alex, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so hi, my name is Alex DeCristofano. I'm a PhD student at Washington University in St. Louis, and back in November, Sarah came and spoke to my graduate seminar, and so I contacted her afterwards, sort of interested in Cassie and the whole grief to action model. And so I'm working with Mike Hamilton, who's a professor at Katz Business School, and we're talking about, what are our platform design considerations? What are we trying to do in terms of basically making this a good experience on both the user side and the business side? Sarah? So a couple considerations are, you can go to the next slide if you don't mind. So for the support that sort of naturally, organically exists, right? We want to have some idea of equity, right, across businesses. So maybe the perfect way to do this would to be equitable across engagement. Each business gets an equal amount of engagement across users, right? But this is a little tricky, and users have different social media platforms that they are willing or aren't willing to interact on. Businesses may have profiles that are more naturally attention grabbing, and we don't fully understand that yet. So as a simpler model to start off on our first iteration, we provide equity across expected engagement. And we'll get to that in a second on how we do that exactly. But basically, just know that we're trying to make sure that each business has about the same chance of being seen as any other business. The other thing that we want to do is, to some degree, we want to respect user preferences for business types. So if you see onto the right, you have this, at sign up, you can express what types of businesses you're interested in. And there's an idea that users may be more interested in food rather than shopping or beauty. And so these users should be able to see those businesses more prominently recommended to them. The way we currently do it is we're displaying them in a carousel one at a time. And so the ordering is of importance in the recommendation system. The other thing is, besides sort of the organic engagement that we might get with the platform, we're interested in incentivizing user engagement, right? So how can we use badges in this case, so sort of like a non-monetary incentive to increase user engagement across the platform, maybe get people to interact with a few businesses that they wouldn't have otherwise. So we have some ways of doing that, and then also connecting that to the University of Pitt system. Next slide, Sarah. So I'm just going to briefly run through how our display recommendation works. So what we've got is we have what we call like a binning algorithm. So you can imagine each business as having its own bin. And this bin is filled with the expected number of impressions a business will get. When a user logs on, we want to order their carousel or their recommendation in the way that the bin state as close to equal as possible, right? Because if a bin is if two bins are equally full, that means that their expected number of impressions are equal. So in this case, we can see that business 3 has far fewer expected impressions than business 1 or 2. So if a user were to log on and create an account, we would be trying to promote business 3 over business 1 or 2 to try and sort of equalize the expected number of impressions. Now, the other thing is sort of a bit of a little experiment within our platform is we try to look at whether preference types really matter in this scenario. So when a user signs up for the platform, they're given one of two different preference types, one of two user types, excuse me. And that one user type is whether or not preferences are respected. So this is a preference over business types. And the other one is that preferences are not respected in the ordering. So what this means functionally is that a user whose preferences are respected will see businesses whose type is in their preference set before business. For instance, if they're interested in food, they'll see all food businesses before they see a beauty business. If we do not respect their preferences, then we put everything together and it is just based on making sure that the bins are as equal as possible. Next slide. And then finally, we get to the badges. So this is, again, just to try to incentivize users and push them to do a little more than they would organically. So we come up with a model on the back end where badges are basically refreshing a user's engagement on the platform. And that results in sort of these nonlinear thresholds that we have for rewards. So we have a bronze, silver, and gold tier badge for both social and community explorer badges. So there's two types. We'll get into this a little bit later, I think, but there are two types of actions: a trivia action, which allows students to explore information about businesses, and a social media action, which allows users to interact on social media. So we have these across these two different types of badges. We've got these badge thresholds. And then we worked with some students here and with the University of Pittsburgh to connect these to real world incentives, which Ivy is going to talk about next.
Yeah, great, Alex. I'll give a quick explanation of the OCC here before I introduce myself. So the OCC is the outside the classroom curriculum, which is basically a platform for students on Pitt's campus to look at different activities and ways to participate in academia outside of a traditional classroom setting, right? So this would be like attending a poetry reading or going to a guest speaker event at a club or participating in a 412Connect activity, right? And so we kind of take advantage of this system already in place, and we sunk our badges with OCC activities and credits in order to connect with these university students. So real quickly, my name is Ivy Chang. I work in communications and community engagement, finding institutional support for our deployment. And I'm an undergraduate studying economics and finance. So I'm going to get back to this idea of the OCC curriculum as a way for us to just recruit students to start using our platform, right? And so the big thing about this OCC credit is that it's actually a requirement for honors college students. So we know that they're on this platform looking through what activities they can get involved in and hopefully clicking on our activity. And the main thing about the OCC is that it is categorized into different types of activities, right? So you have your service and volunteer project type of activity, as opposed to maybe a career development type of activity, right? So we know the students that are going in and selecting these service and volunteer projects are hopefully our demographic, right? So we're finding students who are looking for exactly, the type of activity that, or the type of service activity that like we are trying to provide, right? So we're reaching hopefully our demographic of students, right? Those people who are willing to help out businesses by giving them a follow or learn more about their community. And along that same train of thought, if we go back, sorry, Sarah, we have this idea of the Civic Action Week, and Civic Action Week is a huge week of volunteering for students. And so we're going to submit a proposal for a game day of 412Connect. And the idea here really is to connect with our demographic. When we choose these like methods of institutional support, we're not just trying to reach the Pitt student body base at large, right? It's a targeted effort to see like, oh, who is our student demographic and how can we get a hold of them, right? And so there is this idea when we talk about the OCC of incentivizing service with rewards, right? Like some people, might not feel comfortable with this because, we want it to be like a pure volunteering effort. But at the end of the day, like if we understand our demographic, being busy college students, we find that the bulk of our users do end up coming from these incentivization tactics, and that this is like a very important component for us to offer. That being said, I do believe there's an OCC QR code for this event, and I'll take a look at that and I'll follow up with Emily in the comments after I finish talking here. But if we move on, Sarah, I can get to this next slide, which is this idea that university support requires team coordination, right? So there needs to be, as far as timeline, what we learned, one, you have to have your product finished, and then during a testing window or a period when very small changes are being made, nothing that is foundational to like the core of your product is being changed, that's when you want to start asking for institutional partnerships for recruitment, right? There's this kind of idea that community engagement or advertising or marketing is a separate endeavor from, technical advances, right? The tech team is its own thing, and then community engagement advertisement goes out and brings people in or brings collaborators in to work with the existing product. But we know that like naturally that's not what happens, right? When we go to institutional partners for support and collaboration, they come back and say, oh, can you do this for us, so that we can work together, right? So if Sarah clicks a little bit, we'll get this view of what our data report looks for institutional departments. So for example, I might go in as community engagement and talk to the Honors College, and they might say, this is great. What can you do for us? And I will say, I can give you this report to show you how your students are interacting with our site and what is your influencing power, right? What is your ability to get students to get involved? And so I might have to run back to my technical team and say, hey, can you update the website so that you can make the Honors College an affiliate for users who are trying to sign in, right? So we have that way of tracking what the Honors College influence is. Or I might go to my data team. I might say, Alex, can we update our data report so that I can give this to the Honors College when we're done the scavenger hunt, right? So all these community engagement efforts kind of lend back to the entire team. And so what we learned, right, is we got to keep it really fluid and make sure the whole team is communicating, and also, try and give that time for community engagement following the finish, the conclusion of like the product development, right? And so then I'll pass it on to the tech team now to talk about, how was that technical product developed?
All right, everyone. This is Colin Griffin. I'm a proud undergrad Pitt SCI senior now, which is kind of crazy to say. Right now I'm in Frick Fine Arts, so sorry if there's like weird audio. I have a class in 24 minutes, so I'll try and get through my bit here pretty quickly. If we could move to the next slide there. So just a little bit more about me. So I was the technical program manager for 412Connect starting in the summer. Before that, though, I was just involved with the SCI capstone for my senior/junior year, sort of. And then I became paid staff after our ESDI funding. So just briefly, 412Connect, of course, is a web application that we developed with Python, Django, and SQLite. More relevant, I guess, to this talk, though, is how we conducted data collection, which was in turn used for data reporting and sort of measuring the effectiveness of our program. And a lot of that data that was collected was related to user activity, as well as the different referrals to social media and business websites that we ended up generating. But we also tracked aggregate statistics, like I said, about business impressions and those social media referrals. As a part of our tech team here, we had a very, I'll call it like startup-esque culture, despite being part of like obviously the larger institution of the University of Pittsburgh. Where we were incredibly dynamic, I would say. I mean, we were a small team of, 2 to 3 maybe paid technical staff, and then several volunteers that floated in and out for different months or whatever their availability might have been. We embraced the agile development framework a bit through that. So we were keeping track of things like, I'll call it like Scrum Light. So we had like sprint boards and moving cards around just to make sure we were all on the same page. And that really helped coordinate different tasks amongst people that might not have had super constant availability, but, rotating in and out, I guess you could say. And we also had this design as you go philosophy / working attitude that I think Tyler here can talk about a little bit more on this next slide.
All right, hi, I'm Tyler. I'm the UX designer for 412Connect. I actually joined as a volunteer way back in, I think, last November. actually, my brother introduced me. He was asking around for projects on like how to help out the community because he was really interested in getting a job with doing some data research and science, more community based instead of getting like a private company work right away. So he actually told me about this project, and then I joined in originally as a volunteer, and then later I used 412Connect as my final capstone before graduation. And then I was brought on temporarily in a paid position while we were finishing up the project. So next slide, please. So for design, kind of what Colin brought up, we used agile methodologies for the design process as well as the implementation process. A little bit what he was saying, like Scrum Light, since we like, it's kind of strange because we don't have the full like organization allowances that huge companies or like private corporations might have. So we kind of had our own version of what like agile methodologies would entail. So of course we had a small team. So we needed to design and implement at the same time. So we didn't have the luxury of fully designing everything, making sure it's all fleshed out, and then handing it over and saying, hey, code this. Instead, it was more like, okay, design this feature, implement it, get feedback on it at the next weekly meeting that Sarah brought up, and then either completely nix the feature, change it, or add on to it, if there's more suggestions about that. So of course that included frequent feedback and iterations on design. I must have made like hundreds of wireframes and just different feature planning and all that. And so, like I said, we implemented and designed a lot on the fly. So tons of meetings, discussing features, drawing up new designs and throwing out other designs. And of course, there was a huge community aspect involved with any sort of design on the project. We did a ton of user research using things like surveys, like the one Sarah showed earlier, user interviews, focus groups, usability tests. So everything to kind of get like students and business owners involved in the entire process and to keep them in mind while designing. So a lot of this was done directly with students and business owners with like things like the surveys. And then we also created things like user personas, user scenarios, user flows, all to keep the end users in mind while designing the project. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and give you a live demo of the current website, because a lot of what you saw so far with that fake launch party business, that was wireframe. So here is the real website. And just let me know if you can see it. All right. So this is the homepage. It just gives you a quick rundown of who we are, why to support Black businesses, and some quick instructions. And of course, the curator note detailing RCI's involvement in the project in helping us work with those businesses. So I already have an account. I'm just going to go ahead and log in. And as you can see, I already have some badges and everything filled out. But right now, I have a silver badge for Community Explorer, which is the trivia questions. And I have a bronze right now for the social amplifier badge, which would be social medias. So let's just go ahead and look for a business to choose here. Let's go with Natural Beauty Supply. So here you can see about the business. And then if you're interested as a user, you would then do things like trivia questions. So let's do one like, let's just choose this one. So it says, what is our mission? So what students would do is they can look at their social media or even their website to help like look for the answer to this question. So let's go ahead and see like if they have some sort of mission statement on here. Oh, so like right here, it says, instilling confidence in the Black community, providing the convenience of having the tools and products in place. So that would be this one right here. And let's see if that's right. So it is right. So we get the points for that. And then we can go ahead and see that that activity is done. And then we can also see that has updated our badge one more point forward towards the next badge. So also going hand in hand with that, to get to the other badge, we would then complete a social amplifier badge activity. So since I put in my Instagram page, my Twitter page, and my Facebook page when signing up, it gives me access to these badges. So I can go ahead and go to their Instagram and then go ahead and follow them. And then as you can see here, it says, thank you for following Instagram. I have a little check mark here. And then I also have another point towards the next badge. And then of course, we also like to emphasize not just completing these, but also exploring more BOBs and looking at kind of what our partners do. So we have a whole list of our partners, including Cokepreneur, Black-owned PGH, Riverside, Community Forge, and a whole bunch of others. So that explains kind of the community aspect as well with our partners.
And to touch on real quick here, and Tyler, you can add as well, for both our tech and design team takeaways. I think all of us, and even outside of our team, because we all sort of functioned as one large unit, that for us, especially as undergrads, this was like very real world experience, very similar to the way that like an internship or co-op would have been. And I would say it's definitely the best experience you can get. Just learning definitely on the fly. There were so many new things that we learned as a result of this. Django and Python were both almost completely new to me. I'd done a little bit of Python before, but never really for like a web framework type of thing. So that was all self-learning, self-teaching. There weren't really professors around that were like, oh, this is how you do user authentication with, hashing passwords and whatever. So these were all things that we had to sort of drum up on our own. Additionally, coordinating a team is a challenge almost always, but it's also incredibly rewarding. These are just things like coordinating meeting times, making sure that everyone had their own tasks, no one was doing rework, or everyone was working on something. And all of those things start to add up when you add team members on. It's also important. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I think you had added these ones. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I also just said it's important to be open-minded to feedback. That's one huge thing I learned throughout this. So I just graduated from undergrad, and I actually switched majors to design pretty recently. So this is like very new to me. And so with that, I never really showed designs off to like the public before. Like I did a lot of class projects and things like that, but never really had a full like real world project. So that was a huge thing to learn, was like, okay, if someone was like, this design is bad, I'd be like, awesome, thank you for telling me that. I'll go ahead, get some feedback, get some like maybe feature changes or just like general comments about it, and then rewrite it, show it again, and then if it makes you feel a lot better after when you show it to them again, and then they go, okay, this looks so much better, like that. So, and then another thing I said is keeping in mind the human aspect. A lot of times with designing and programming, it's easy to get like stuck up with like keeping like making sure like the features that you had in mind, or that everything is like going according to what you wanted to. But it's also important to keep the end user in mind, and also sorry, I just blanked for a second. To keep the human aspect in mind when designing and programming.
Thank you, Tyler and Colin. So next, we then, being done with the prototype development, so this is launch 1, we go to the getting feedback stage. And so let's go to the client, the content curators, Adam Gerald at Riverside, and executive director Juan Garrett.
Yeah, so I'm Adam. I'm from Riverside. Juan is on the call. He is the executive director of Riverside Center for Innovation. I'll give you a quick, you can go one slide forward, Sarah. Um, I'll give you a quick overview of Riverside, who we are, and then how we're partnering with 412 and some of the challenges that we faced as a curator. First, though, our role as a curator is to provide them with the Black-owned businesses to be able to put up on the website. It's been awesome. It's been an enjoyable experience, and we're excited for hopefully a round two. I know I'm already working on collecting all of the information needed, so we're going to have even more businesses ready to go once we're at that point. So Riverside is a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 located in the city of Pittsburgh's north side, right along the River Avenue. We've been established since 1983. We're proud to be one of the region's premier community economic development agencies. We are the leading and most comprehensive full-service small business incubator. We target women, minorities, veterans, LGBTQ, and other disadvantaged business ventures in southwestern Pennsylvania. And we provide a single point of contact for our target businesses that are seeking out information to start, sustain, and grow their businesses. So we just really exist to help small businesses from step one, and we never let go. So we have a big hand in a lot of different Black-owned businesses. If you wish, I'm going to drop down our website and my email if you want to know more, and you can contact us and I'll put you in touch with any information you're seeking. So that's a little bit about us, what we do, why we're partnering with 412. When I was approached of taking over this project as like being a liaison between us and 412, I was really excited because I believe that there's this large untapped potential base, especially around the university community and Black-owned and minority-owned businesses. And so I just think that it's really cool to be able to start to form a partnership that should hopefully exist into the future for many more years of creating trust and creating health between the university and the community. And so one of the challenges we did face was just developing trust between local businesses and the university community. Something we found that was really key and really important, and something we stuck to, especially the 412 team really stuck to this, was being consistent, not only in communication, but with what we were putting out. And then understanding that it's going to take time to continue to grow deeper lines of trust with the greater communities of Pittsburgh. And as those grow, we're really excited because we believe that this is just the first step among many steps of creating a larger ecosystem in the whole of the Pittsburgh region. So we really enjoyed our part to play as curators. We're really excited for the next round. And I'm going to drop my email and our website down below in the chat. So feel free to reach out as well. Sarah, do you want to talk through these?
These are the 8 Black-owned businesses that are on our site. So you can see there's shopping, there's beauty, there's food, and there is a young 15-year-old pet entrepreneur, as well as this t-shirt printing, etc. So thanks for introducing us to all of these businesses. So with that, we will close our presentation for Q&A. So we meet every Friday at noon. We're open to all. You just email us at cassie@pitt.edu. And then our website. So I encourage you to come join us on the Scavenger Hunt and meet the businesses at 412Connect.org. And we're also on Twitter at CassiePitt. So thank you so much. And I am going to stop share screen now so we could chat, take questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone from the 412 Connect team for joining. Really, this was such a great kickoff for this series, and I'm so grateful for your time and for this work. I'll kick us off with a question about whether you see this work as a potential model for other regions, whether this particular tool might be adapted in other locations.
Ivy, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so this tool is actually something that we're hoping to have multiple launches or scavenger hunt with. So right now we're talking with student body or student government board within Pitt to relaunch for their Heritage Month. So that would fall January, February, we believe. So I also mentioned, having another scavenger hunt for Civic Action Week. So we're hoping to continue reusing this site that we have, and kind of we're gonna look to change curators, right? So we heard from Adam with RCI, but in the future we would collaborate with Coco Entrepreneur, different curators to give us a different set of businesses so that we allow students to, update who they're interacting with and helping out. And so I think, Sarah, even there was talk of updating the platform so that we can work with the university as a curator.
Yeah, so I think also I think one issue is recruiting the users, right? So we are interested, like we hope to get more businesses from Riverside for example, for Civic Action Week, and where there is like a specific way to talk to the students and say like, hey, here is an offering, here's something that like fits a certain theme. But like it is difficult to get students' attention. And so if we can kind of outsource that to a different group, for example, Homewood CEC is really interested in doing a Homewood scavenger hunt, and they would be better equipped to also be recruiting the students that would be going on the scavenger hunt, as opposed to, Ivy and me talking to different departments. And they could be working with Cocopreneur, which also knows businesses there. So that there's like, the problem for us is to try to figure out how to wrap the student, like what student and like what group of community assets we want to bundle into a hunt, and like what is a hunt, right? Like what is that, a specific date? Is it a thematic event? Is it an orientation event? So yeah, I think there's a question there. Brian, does all of 412Connect funding come from Cassie, or do we have funding from other sources too? So yeah, so originally, yes, we self-funded from Cassie's startup fund for an entire year, and then we got into the Engage Scholarship Design Intensive, and from that we got $3,000, which wasn't too much, but we were able to hire Colin and Tyler for the 2 months of very intense development during the summer. So yeah, but we definitely need more if we were going to expand our features. Thanks, Brianna.
There are questions. I wondered about engaging the broader community as well as on these scavenger hunts, if that has been something that the project team, beyond the student community of Pitt, if that's something the project team has discussed.
It's definitely something we're very interested in. As Sarah talked about earlier, there is some risk when you work with these underrepresented communities that people will take advantage of the platform for like negative reasons, right? So right now we have our platform restricted to people with a .edu email, just so that we are having some accountability with how our users choose to interact with these Black-owned businesses. But sort of, how we can reach a broader audience is like safely for the communities we represent is something that we're definitely trying to discuss and figure out the best method to tackle that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I was wondering if like we can just get a quick brainstorm from the audience about like one word or one sentence about like what you would like to see on the site. If people can just drop in like a really short thing. Like, do Do you want to see nonprofits, volunteer opportunities? Do you want to see, Latinx businesses or nonprofits? I mean, what would you like to see? Okay, how you can help Paige. Okay, different ways of engaging. Thanks, Brianna. That's good. Oh, yeah, that's great. Right. Profiles of the businesses. So Juan's still here. So Juan, that would be something that would be really interesting from Riverside. Riverside would have some sort of histories of these businesses because they worked with them for a while. Any other suggestions? These are really good. An FAQ sheet for, Juan, you want to say more about that one? What do you mean an FAQ sheet?
Like a fact sheet, so when people know what they're using this for, whenever you tell people, you want to be able to increase the whole purpose of that because people are looking for that as well. But some of the profile and histories of the businesses, I'm not quite sure we're going to have them all because a lot of ours are really going to be startup companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't have that many history and profiles. But if you do have a profile, they should be able to upload it, a small little profile on what they may have.
Mm-hmm.
But again, some of these companies haven't been around longer than so many years. So it's going to be very hard for them to have history of their business. But if you put something in a fact sheet to say, hey, some of these companies are startup companies just getting off the ground, how important it is for you all to support that. That would be great to be a part of the growth of the region.
Great. Okay. So something to frame the fact that these businesses are like pretty young. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Well, I see we're at 1 o'clock. Thank you so much to the 412 Connect team for joining us. Thank you for the link as well, Sarah, to the site. I'm also popping in a link to the Year of Data and Society page where you can learn more about upcoming events and the funding opportunity too that's available through the Year of Initiative. But thank you to the project group for kicking off this series, and thank you to all who joined today. We look forward to learning about this project as it continues to develop and to seeing you at future events. So thank you.
Thank you, Nora, for having us. Thanks everyone for coming.
Everyone.
Bye.